Hey, Mike Holmes here in studio. I want to spend about 60 seconds kind of getting you ready for this live webinar. We do these about once a month. This one was called The Sunday Morning Visitors, How to Get Them to Return. And of course, it was all about how to get those first-time visitors to become second-time visitors. And that's so exciting when that happens. In fact, I'm thankful for the feedback that I'm getting from your churches. And many of you have written and talked about the things you've learned here and how it is working, and I really appreciate that. I'm so excited that you're getting people coming back and being able to disciple them, and that's really what this is all about. I'm also thrilled about the Back to Church coaching class that we are opening up right now, and this is just a real simple kind of get you going type of thing. If you are trying to make more influence in your community and really reach your people, this is for you. This is a coaching opportunity from reachkeep.com. I'll be telling you all about it here in just a little bit, but let's get right into this live workshop now. Board. Yeah. Hey, this is Mike Holmes. For those of you that are brand new, I'm the director of reachkeep.com, pastored church in Sinclair, Wyoming for 13 years, planted the church, still a member of the church, and we hired a younger guy, and he took over and doing a great job there, still there quite a bit, and I really enjoy spending my time when I'm home. I'm out of town for the next couple of weeks, but everything's going fine back there. So just texted with the secretary a little bit ago, and things are going good. So I'm going to spend some time talking to you about Sunday morning visitors and how to get them to return. You might be the right person here if you're a bivocational person. And that's a lot of people are, a lot of the smaller churches, rural churches, you'll find that yes, you are the one and only person that is doing a lot of the work that is there. You got another job, keeps you busy, and that's pretty common in a lot of the rural and smaller areas. You also might be the right person for this webinar here if you are experiencing a lot of first-time visitors, or not a lot, but some, but you're not getting those. You're not getting back the second time, and they're not making it back. And for some reason, that is what really is haunting you, and we're going to be kind of covering some of that. So you're definitely the right person there. Also, if you're hungry to reach people, and I think this is probably one of the predominant prerequisites. If you just really want to build your church so you can tell everybody how many more numbers you had or whatever, we all know that that's a dead end road. But if we can build our church because we have reached the community, in other words, if a church grows because, hey, we reach these person here and that person there. I often talk about, like, if a church is, got 50 and they would love to have 60, then who's number 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, right on. Who are those people? And it's exciting when number 57 and 58 walk in the door, and you've been praying for number 51, 52, 53, and 54, and they finally came. Those are the kind of numbers we like. So if you're hungry for souls, you're in the right place. And then if your church just needs to grow, in other words, you've got to get out of the slump, you got to get out of the COVID slump, you got to move on. And you need to grow for some logical purposes too, so that you can be full-time and that you can pay off your building, and you can not have to work the extra, or your wife. I know a lot of churches, it's the hidden bivocational church. In other words, the pastor's full-time or close to full-time, but the wife is working also a full-time job. And it's that kind of hidden bivocational family there. And that's a tough thing. And that's not really a good thing. So anyway, you're probably the right person. Again, here's a picture of our church. We're in an old hotel we bought, and it's right on the middle of the United States out here in central Wyoming. In a town called Sinclair. You might be familiar if you're from the stateside here. Sinclair Baptist Church, and the green dinosaur is the Sinclair dinosaur. So that's not our personal dinosaur. I wish we had one inside. I think it'd really be cool for the children's ministry, and someday we might have one. But anyway, pastored there for 13 years, and church is doing great right now. So let me give you a little overview here. And if you're just joining us, let me look on the other computer here too. If you can let me know what part of the country you're from, I appreciate that very much. If you're watching this on the replay, which I know several people could not make it, they let them know. The chat function probably won't be running during the replay, but just you can type it in anyway, I guess, if you want. So anyway, overview. We're going to talk about the problem, sort of this problem to solve, and then how to do it. Just jump into some real practical stuff. I think if you are a systems type person, you're going to enjoy the first several portions of this. You're going to definitely want a piece of paper and pencil and write down some things. We're going to go kind of wrap it up with a little establishing some success, and then we're going to touch on some resources. And then if you have any questions, we're going to be dealing with those. If you have a question, you can just type it into the chat at any time, and I should be able to see that. So here's our problems, okay? And I put them all up there at once so you can see them. You can't disciple people that are absent. In other words, there is a good rule of attendance, and that is people attend, they're more likely to grow spiritually, and not only just get saved, but to actually mature spiritually and to really take off. And so if they're not there, it's difficult to do. So if we get them to come back, then we can work with them. And if you have a burden for people, you know what that's like. You just want to see them conquer the problems that they have, whether it's alcoholism or broken home, family, or they've been abandoned in some way and left and hurt. So many wounded people filled with anger because of what has happened to them. And we want to disciple those people. We want to help them out. And if you don't have them there, man, you just can't do anything. Also, outreach is stifled with low numbers. In other words, you don't have people to go out and to kind of get the ball rolling, which kind of rolls into this next one, is the momentum wanes when you have a bunch of never returners, and people come and they don't come back, and they come. It'd be like if you opened a restaurant and you had all sorts of people come the first time, they never came back the second time. Your momentum would definitely be hindered. And if you have that, you know what it's like. There's a pain when people don't come back. I had a church I'm working with in Texas, I believe it is, and they had a couple of years ago, statistic wise, he had like 50 families or 50 different individuals, I should say, that came and to a service throughout that calendar year, and not a single one of them came back a second time. And we got to work on that. I mean, those are certainly some things there. And of course, it does then hinder that community outreach. Okay. You're not able to have the impact that you want because you just can't, fund things, you can't staff things or whatever. And so those are certainly some of the problems to solve, that if we can get some of those first-time visitors to come and to stay. All right. So that's sort of the goal. So questions and answers at any time, or Q&A, if you want to type them in, I'll be going through some things. You can type them into the chat there. And of course, let me know what part of the country or world you're from. I know we got some Canadians signed up here, and we have some folks from Ireland already. So let's jump into the how we do it thing here. And I want to just kind of give you some real practical kind of stuff, and just so grab yourself a bottle of water and pen and pencil and paper, and let's get going. For those of you wondering, I'm in Vail, Colorado. Took a couple of days off for a little writing retreat with my wife, and I are down here and looking out to the snowy covered slopes right here. This is a world-class ski resort, largest ski resort in America by attendance. And I wish I was out skiing. That would be a fun thing to do. But actually, I enjoy doing this a whole lot better. But I do love to do a lot of skiing and outdoor stuff. So, all right, how we do it? I'm going to put some things up here, kind of go through, and we're going to go back through these individually. Number one is create and maintain what we call a solid guest system. The second one is become a solutions based ministry. And we'll go into that in detail, how different portions of your ministry can become a solution based ministry. And then this idea of creating a fertile landing ground. And this is the concept of when people come, they're landing in a healthy environment. And there's an awful lot that makes that really, really important. That last one, we'll get into what makes it unhealthy, but we'll get into some of that. So let's talk about the guest system here. You want a really solid guest greeting type system. And this is the idea that when guests come, that there are things that are happening to them. And it's not just like, oh, someone walked in the door. I mean, I've been to churches, that when someone walks in the door, the baby, they like, oh, someone run quick to the nursery, go turn the heat on in there and get it ready. And in other words, they're not ready. They don't have a solid system. And when they don't come back, they're like, oh man, these church shoppers, they just hopping around. And it's like, well, no, the nursery was cold and they had a baby, so they're not coming back. I mean, there are some things. I mean, you and I are going to go to church all the time because we're in the ministry. We love it. We go because of habit. We go because of obedience. We go because it's Sunday. We love to worship the Lord. But when you're reaching new young families, they are not tied in. They don't have any of that heritage yet. They don't have any of the obedience factor because they may not even know the Lord. And they certainly don't have the habit. So we need to have a good guest system that kind of processes them. And again, this is sort of the system. If you're kind of a wonky, kind of a spreadsheet kind of person, you'll like this. You're going to want your greeting system to be really in good shape, and not just in good shape, but really what we call an enhanced system. And I'll give you a couple resources in just a second on that. You're going to want to then have a good communication system with them. And this is going to be by email, snail mail, as we call it here in the States now, and texting. You're going to want to have some of that. And then you're going to work on this one-on-one connection. This is the eyeball to eyeball thing. And we're going to talk about some of that. So your solid guest system has some of those. So let's just dive into a couple of details here on some of the things that you can work on in your church. And you can assign some of these things out. You can delegate some of these things. This is just some good stuff. Here is the kind of the nuts and bolts, though, of the guest system. Is you're going to have some level of greeting. Okay, if a person walks into something and is never greeted, that is not good. Okay, so you're going to have some type of this welcomey kind of greeting thing. You're going to have some type of communication where they are getting information. Remember, informed people are happy people. And then from there, you're not just giving them a handshake at the beginning and some information. You're going to have some bonding. You're going to have a little bit of connection. We're going to talk about how to get that connection. So let's jump to a couple of things here in the greeting system. First of all, first impressions, they stick. In other words, when people walk in the door, man, they are going to they're going to make those decisions in the first few moments. It's really important that you have a good first impression and work on that. A lot of pastors put hours and hours into a sermon, and they put very little into the front door and the greeting system. And it's just filled, your front door is filled with clutter. There's no one out front and all, even, saying hello, people walking in the wrong door of the building. We've had that happen at churches. They don't even know where to go. I was at church this last weekend. It was, new church to me. Went in there. It's like, where is the front door of this? And we drove around the back, which I thought was the back, and it turned out to be the front, But if there was a person standing there, it would have been much easier. They would have known it. So first impressions are very important. The idea of system-wide training. And this is where, you may say, well, my people are really friendly. Okay. My people are really kind. My people are really thoughtful. Well, they might be to each other, but that doesn't mean they are to outsiders. And so the system-wide training, that means your Sunday school teachers know how to receive guests and welcome guests and give them information and connect with them. Your usher people know how to receive guests. They know how to greet with them, get them the right information, and connect with them. If you have actual outdoor greeters or indoor greeters like we have, they know how to connect with somebody, how to say hello, how to, give the information they need at that point, and then how to make a connection with them. All of these are just super important things. And this is training that the pastor is responsible for. Many times we think discipleship is just this idea of doing, like we're going to teach you about prayer, and we're going to teach you about serving. We're going to teach you about tithing. We're going to teach you about witnessing. Well, folks, part of discipleship is how to function in a local church environment. And a local church sits in a community that brings people in, or should be bringing people in. And you want to train your people on how to attract people, how to talk to people, how to, be at ease with them, how to, introduce them to other people. That is training that you can do as well. And it needs to be system-wide across the whole thing. The other thing here with a greeting system is that those ministry teams, so your ushers and your janitorial people and your greeters, if you have handshakers and hosts and all that, like we recommend, all of those people are having a meeting, not to have a Bible study, not to, pray and sing or whatever. It seems like almost all meetings that we have, we think that have any value. We open with prayer and we sing a hymn or two, and then we have some type of preaching. But sometimes the best meetings where you just sit down and go, man, we really need to figure this janitorial system out. We're not getting our church cleaned good enough, or on time, or between services properly, or whatever. I was at a church once. The janitorial system was terrible. It was like 5 minutes before the service, and there was someone walking around emptying trash cans and sweeping up some of the messes that had been made earlier in the week. And it was like, hey, this is like 9:15 in the morning. What is going on here? Okay, they shouldn't be doing janitorial work at that time. You need meetings where you work on that, and to have a sharp greeting system, you need to look at these things here. Now, I have some resources on this. If you have been around ReachKeep over the last few weeks, we have just been talking about this. So you go to YouTube, search for the word ReachKeep, and then you can just type in these things here. How can a small church get started with a greeting system? The other one is starting from scratch, how we laid out our church greeting system. But if you want a really solid system, you're going to go to YouTube and watch these things, and hit the thumbs up and share them, whatever you need to do. But you can actually, on the share button on YouTube, there's a place where you can copy the link, and it just says copy, I think. And you copy the link of it, and then you email that to your janitorial people, or you email that to your Sunday school people or your greeter people, so that they too can kind of get in on some of the training. So all of this is readily available on ReachKeep here. So, all right, let's jump to the communicate portion of this. Remember, it's greet and then communicate, and then there's going to be a connection. Now, these are not necessarily sequential, all in 60-minute moments. Some of this communication is stuff that happens the very next day. But anyway, good to have and a few of you are joining us here. Appreciate that. And thank you much. Leave a comment there. If you have any questions, write those down. We'll get to those in just a second. So let's talk about communicating. As we say, informed people are happy people. And a solid system, a solid grading system, is going to have really good communication in it. Okay, and here are the three things that I have here: a physical letter that goes to them, that's posted to them, goes to their mailbox, an email or a text from the pastor or the appropriate person. If they are in children's ministry, it might be a youth pastor or a children's director or something like that, might be the email or text person. And then an invitation to the next event with a reason. Okay, and we're going to kind of get into what that means in just a little bit. So let's talk about this communication. Let's talk about the physical letter. If you're going to be mailing a letter, we're talking about a physical letter and an envelope. Okay, we do like a postcard. It's not a card, but it's like a flip open card that we had pre-printed, and it has kind of the name of the church and a couple things on the inside, and then we handwrite in those letters. Thank you so much for being with us. We enjoyed, but it goes in an envelope and it is there. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to email them. I'm just going to text them or whatever. I can save that extra money. Folks, a physical letter is a powerful, powerful thing. And in our case, we're going to put something in it that you can't email very easily. So make sure it is mailed the next day. Okay. Make sure in there are answers about the church. Now, this might be if they came to the children's ministry, you would slip in other words, they had kids, you might slip a little brochure that you made on the children's ministry and stick that in the envelope there. You might have something about something else they inquired about, a food ministry or a Bible studies, a little card that has all your Bible studies in it. We're getting ready to put out a bookmark. We always do during the holiday season, has a Bible reading plan for the holidays, how to understand Christmas to the fullest. And it has a bunch of we call it the 12 days of Christmas. It has 12 days of devotions in a row. And we would put one of those in there. You can put something about your picnic season that you have coming up in the summer. We usually create a card every springtime around Easter that we hand out. It's a card about yay big, and it has all of the kids' events for the entire summer, plus all our picnic events that are sort of family-oriented events. And we print on a really nice piece of cardstock, and we would put that in that envelope, and we would send that out so they would know what is going on. So it answers some questions, so they're getting more information about things. And then we also put out a gift card for all our guests, okay? We too, in the stateside here, we have a Subway, a sandwich shop in our town, and very good sandwiches, very nice place, very healthy place to eat. And we like to take everybody out to Subway, and that's what we do is we send them a card that looks just like that. And it has it's a $5 Subway card. So if a husband and wife come, they both get a $5 card. If the husband, wife, and 3 kids come, all of them, we'd send them 5 cards. Now, this is a cost of our evangelism, and we put it in the budget that way. But it really makes a difference, and we get a lot of comments on, hey, thank you so much for that. And when they're out there eating, they're thinking about you and they're thinking about the church. Okay. So that first thing there was the idea of communicating through a snail mail, an envelope, which got something physical in it. The second way here is an email from the pastor. Okay, this is the idea that you are going to connect to them, and you're going to connect with them the way that most Americans and just people overseas probably too connect is through one of these smartphones. I think there's like 7 billion smartphones in the world now and like 8 billion people. So it's like almost everybody has one. And you can get your email on your phone and it is easy to capture an email address by several things. One is we use connection cards, and I don't have one of them here, but we have a great tool that we use. And you probably, some of you, I can see who's attending, a few of you here. I know you've been through some of our connection card training. If you do not yet use connection cards, you need to go and download our guide on that. And you can also go onto YouTube and our channel and search for connection card. You'll find some great resources. We just finished up doing a series on some of those. We did some training on that last month. But on that connection card, you will capture their email address. And this is an important thing. And one of the ways that you do that is you say, hey, folks, thanks so much for being with us here today. If you're a first-time guest, you got a little connection card there. When we fill those out, and we're going to be filling that out in just a moment and putting our prayer requests and things on there, make sure you put your email address on there because we got something special for you. And if you put your physical address on there, we have a special Subway card we're going to send to you for our Subway store just down the street here. We'd love to send you out to lunch. So make sure you put your information on that card. boom, and we get that information. Now, you ask them for their email address, and the reason you ask them for it is because you're going to email them a special link. And I'm kind of jumping down here to the third one. It has a link that is relevant to a relevant site or a video. But basically, you're going to capture their email address, and you are going to, before Monday, and I try to do it by that afternoon. I usually tell them, hey, if you put your email address on there by 2 o'clock this afternoon, I am going to send you a link to this video that I referenced in the sermon. I'm going to send you a link to this website that deals with how to deal with stepchildren, or how to deal with an angry child. And you put a link on there, and then you email them the answer. This, it gets into, as we get a little bit later, into this solution-based thing, is that when you start to solve problems, you are viewed as a totally different person, okay, than someone that's just trying to get someone to come to their church and give them money, that kind of thing. When you are this problem solver of the community, or the problem solver for that family, and if you have found a link, or you have some reference on how to deal with an angry child or a lazy child, and you have a bunch of parents that come and they have children, believe me, they're going to send you the address because they want that information. You can do just simple prayer, Bible verse lists are an important thing. I'm going to give you five verses on how to beat depression. And they're right here out of the book of Psalms. It's a wonderful thing. I don't have time to preach on all of it, but if you sometimes feel you're falling into depression, sometimes you get kind of blue or whatever, and you want to stop that before it gets any further, and you know that you need to stop that before it gets any further, make sure you put your email address on there and check the little box, and I'm going to send you a list of these verses. So a lot of that we deal with in our connection card training. And again, go to YouTube and search for our connection card guides right there. And then on the email, I always put a question in there to start to create some type of dialogue. So if you want guests to come back, if they've created dialogue with you, you're going to be better off than if you don't even never met them, never shook their hand, never talked to them, never asked them any kind of question. So ask them, are you new in town? Are you working at the local refinery here? There's only a few places that you can work in our community. So it's sort of like you kind of connect with the workplace thing here. Did you bring some children with you? Did your spouse come or whatever? You can ask some really simple questions along that line. But if you send out from the pastor, ask a question, and then they write back, then you can write back again, then you can write back again, and boom, 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 boom. And now you're dealing with a first-time visitor, and you've texted and talked back and forth to them 4 or 5 times. Really good chance they're going to be coming back that next Sunday, or for prayer meetings or whatever you're inviting them to. So that's the email thing. Now let's get to that. That was a communicate. Let's jump to the connection portion here. And this is something, as we talk about connecting, talk about this with our greeters. When you are greeting somebody, and you can check out our stuff again. We talk about outdoor greeters and indoor greeters, and then we talk about hosts. The outdoor and indoor greeters are just barely having time to say hello to people. They're just kind of a little quick connection there. Good to have you here. Welcome to church. And they walk on by because they're right in the doorway. But when you have a host, that's someone that talks to them. When they get to talk to them, they're the ones that start to connect. And they start to look them, straight in the eye and ask questions or talk with them. There's some powerful things. We usually shake hands with them at the beginning, kind of meet them. And then during our handshaking time, during the service, we play a few songs and we get to kind of do a little meet and greet. We go to them. And I always have my host just try to look them straight in the eye and say, thank you so much for coming to be with us here today. And just very sincere, look them straight in the eye. That is a connection kind of thing we're talking about. And I want to go through that. And we touched on that just a little bit. Okay, this is the idea of an invitation. You're going to invite them back to church, but you're going to not just invite them. Don't forget, next Sunday, see you, bye. Okay, or don't forget to come tonight, 7:00, bye. But you're going to give them a reason, okay? They must hear an invitation to return. So this is the important thing, is that if they can hear it, and it might be texted in this case or written handout, but it is like we would love for you to return next Sunday and be our guest and get to know us a little better. It's in other words, don't just make sure that you give them that sort of invitation, that you talk to them. I sure hope that you can be with us tonight at 7 o'clock. I'm doing a series on prophecy. I think you'll really enjoy it. We'd love to have you come. And I just want to invite you to be our guest here tonight, that type of thing. That when you're doing that, you want to talk about benefits rather than features. So if you're inviting someone to come back the next Sunday, okay, you would say, don't forget next Sunday, 9:30 and 11, our Sunday school's at 10:30, or whatever. Those are just features, okay? Those you're just talking. What you want to do is you want to say, we would really love to have you return next week. And your family, I know, will benefit from being here at church, because a family that prays together stays together. I mean, spirituality in a family is a really important thing. And they're like nodding their head. Yes, it is. Next week, I'm going to be teaching about how to raise stepchildren. The Bible is filled with some great things about raising stepchildren. And I'd love to have you come and hear some of that. Okay. Yes, we'll be there, so you start to give the benefits of a family that is united, a family that's praying, a family that is close, a dad that is the leader of the family. We're going to be talking about leadership at our Sunday evening service that we have. And all of us are leaders. And it is so much better when we lead, and we lead the right way, and we lead the Bible way. So make sure that you, if you can, be here at 7 o'clock tonight. We're going to talk about how to be God's kind of leader. So you're kind of giving the benefit there rather than just 7 o'clock tonight. Don't forget, so that's the kind of thing, the benefits there. The next thing is you must create this anticipation. And this is where you put something in your letter or something in your communication with them. And it's like, hey, our kids have been practicing this song for 4 weeks, and they're going to be doing it tonight. A bunch of our teenagers are going to be playing instruments. I know it's going to be interesting. I hope that you can make it. So you kind of create anticipation. I got just this message on this sermon. It's been so heavy on my heart, and I can't wait to share it with everybody. See you, tonight at 7. You're creating anticipation. And as a church leader, you can do that. You can create anticipation, just a lot of different techniques to that. We've covered a lot of that in the past. Let's jump down to the last one here. That was the last one. Let's get to the how to do it here, and how to continue to move forward. So we're going to create and maintain this solid guest system. That was the first point. Now let's jump to the next one here. And this is the idea of, excuse me. Yeah. Let me back up here. It went a little too fast here. We're going to create and maintain a solid guest system. So people are coming for solutions. This is the idea. They come for solution. Okay. So you become a solution-based ministry. And we've already kind of covered a little bit of this, but this is the idea that you can be known as the people with answers. I often use this illustration. You probably heard it before, but it's like, why do people in the States here, why do they go to Walmart? Okay. They don't go there for the first time to kind of be fascinated by all this stuff, or to wander around with all the other, shoppers there. They go because the last time they went, they got something there. I mean, they got a solution the last time. They went to the pharmacy, got their pills. They went to the clothing department, got the clothes for the kids. They went to the automotive area and got the oil for their car. They went because there was a solution the last time. And we want to make sure that we are providing solutions for our churches, for our people, and that we become this solution-based ministry. And I will go into some of those details on this. Here's a saying from the very famous Johnny Appleseed. Okay. People don't come to church for information. They come for solution. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, man, I got to find out what that fourth bowl of the trumpet was, and the revelation and the laver and the thing in the temple and, all that. No, people come to church because they got problems, they got depression, they got, wounds, they come for relief. And I'm talking about, new people here. I'm talking about spiritually immature people. You and I might come to church because we're trying to figure out the difference between Zechariah and Zechariah. There are some things that once you've been in church for a long time, you kind of got a few things down pat, but you're still kind of looking for a little information. But new people come to church not for information. They come for relief. They come because you are solving a problem. Absolutely. Johnny Appleseed was a pretty smart guy that said all that stuff. So solve problems. We need to be a church that solves problems, a problem-solving church. So here we go. How do we solve them? We solve them from the pulpit. Obviously, the Bible, the Word of God, is filled with answers, okay, for everything. Every life problem is there. What is it? BIBLE, basic instructions before leaving earth, I think they call it. BIBLE. That's kind of interesting. But it's instructions filled with stuff. But from the pulpit, we can have and need to have, and if you're reaching new young families, you need to have at the end of your sermon some type of solid application. Now, you can be a topical preacher, you can be an expository preacher or whatever, but just don't be a preacher that doesn't apply it, okay? Make sure that you are saying, and because of this, boom, and because of this, here's what we can do. And in your illustrations, you can use that. You can make illustrations that are problem solving, how you solved a problem, how you went through and fixed something. The application can be very important, for young families too, new believers. And our church has a lot of young families and a lot of new believers in it. The other day, our pastor was preaching on, I believe it was unforgiveness. And if you fail to forgive people, bitterness springs up, and, something along that line. And it was a good sermon. He's kind of going through, he was getting towards the application at the end. He said this, he says, now I've given you some application on how to solve bitterness, but some of you have some bitterness and unforgiveness in your children. Let me give you a couple points on how to help with an angry child. And I was sitting in the back there. I was doing some security that day, and I was kind of standing in the back there. And, I just saw, whoop, everybody sat up. Man, they got their pens out. Whoop. It's like he's getting ready to solve a problem, because almost every parent has a problem with their child gets angry at times. And so he said, let me tell you how to solve a problem with an angry child. And when he did that, he was doing this thing. He was solving it through application. And he actually did it in two levels. He did it with younger children, and then he talked about how to solve a problem, anger problem with teenagers. It was just excellent. And that's the kind of thing we talk about. So again, no matter where you're at in the scriptures, just really, ask the Holy Spirit to give you that I want to solve the problems here. I want to really connect and get this kind of figured out. So the second one here is solving problems with the nursery and with the children's ministry. Solving problems here. Now, this is where your people need to be trained, and they need to know what is going on. Let's talk about the nursery first of all. Our goal at our nursery at our church is not for our ladies to hold a baby quietly, for an hour so the parents can be in the service. Okay, that's part of it. Okay, and there's no doubt that that's an important thing, so parents can make it to the service. But with our nursery, they have a special way of bonding with the ladies that are there. And it's usually ladies that bring the babies in. And so our goal is to have, for our nursery worker, to have a meaningful conversation with a young mom. Okay, because every young mom is filled with questions. And I mean, they're just overloaded with things of raising children, what to do. Now, if you're on like your 12th kid or whatever, you may have it figured out. But we reach a lot of new young families, and they got one kid or they got two, and they have no idea what they're doing. These little kids don't come with instruction manuals. Many unchurched people do not have the Bible as sort of that baseline that many of us grew up with. And so they are filled with questions. The other day in our nursery, they were then a couple of workers were in there talking to this young couple, and it was like really cool. And it's like, hey, they're in there talking about stuff. The service is over, and they're in there yakking. It was great. And I had a few people try to get in the nursery and kind of do some stuff. I said, oh, hang on just a second. conversation going on there. Let's just leave them be. And after about 20 minutes, it was like getting ready for a second service, and the nursery workers had to let the other workers in. We had new moms coming in. Okay, we got to break this up. So they went in, and afterwards it was all everything got settled. I got talking. I said, well, man, what were you guys talking about? And of course I was hoping they were talking about the sermon and the book of Ephesians and all that good stuff. They were talking about teething. Okay. And, little kids' teeth coming in. But you know what? That was what the problem that mom had there. She was having that, and that conversation was a good thing. We became a problem-solving place for them, and we created that friendship there, which takes me to the children's ministry. When moms and dads are coming to your church for the very first time, a young mom and dad, and you want them to come back, let me tell you one way that you can make those folks be beating the door to be back to your church is if their children have a good time and make a good friend in the children's ministry. Every mom and dad, when they're walking up down the sidewalk, coming to your church, they're thinking, will my child find a good friend in this building? Will my child find some good role models? Because many times parents are coming because their children are not filled with, their lives are not filled with good role models. Their lives are a mess. And they are wanting them to have a good role model. And so that is one of those super important things that we need to understand, that the children's ministry people need to be making sure that the children have time to create friendships, and that there's a controlled environment where they kind of get to do that. And it's just really, works out well for them. So this idea of solving problems, you're nurturing your children's ministry, make sure that they are solving problems. The next one here is with your programs and your activities. And these would be not just the Sunday school and nursery, but things that are done during the week, all of the events that you have going on, that those are problem solving events. We have a food ministry, and of course that solves a problem with hunger, but it also solves a problem with volunteers, because we have parents that will bring their children and they will volunteer to hand boxes out, and they're helping their child become benevolent. They want their child to volunteer. They want their teenager to hand boxes out and to do something of value rather than just play video games or hang out on their phone all day long. So we have solved that kind of problem as well. And our programs where we have teenage activities where the teens all go and do something, and they drive somewhere and then they drive back, and the kids create best friends and they create friendship scenarios in a wholesome local church environment. The parents are like, yes, this is wonderful. I am so excited that this is happening. And so you need to solve problems with your programming and with your activities. And that's the reason, okay, and this is kind of a no-brainer here. That's the reason that your announcements become so important, because they are the application of your message. We're going to serve the Lord. We're going to be servants. They're also what is going to be bringing people back. If you get bored in your announcements, we need to talk, okay? Your announcements are super important. Your sermon is about what you believe. Your announcements are about what you're doing about what you believe. And your things that you are announcing should be these programming activities that allow people to volunteer and build friendship and learn how to be servants and do stuff. There's certain things you don't need to announce. You don't need to announce the deacons meeting is, tonight at 6:00. The deacons probably got that figured out. Okay. They don't, the routine stuff doesn't need to be in there. It needs to be the service kind of stuff. And it needs to be the things about what you are doing, about what you believe. And then you are solving problems. And now you're starting, where we're going with this is you're starting to create this atmosphere. They're gonna get an email from you. They're gonna get a letter from you. They're gonna get connected with you. They're gonna have someone look them in the eye. They're gonna see people are solving problems, and the people are starting to figure out that there is something different about this church. There's something different about this environment. It's a problem-solving environment. It's just something different. Let's go on to the next one here, okay? This is like a saying that we have we put in our academy that we teach, and that is every Sunday solve a problem. And it is the idea that you and I need to be there solving those problems. So teach your workers this, teach, you can do it in your application, your illustrations, and all of that stuff. But make sure you are solving problems. So we've talked about how to do it, how to create that system, and work on those emails and mails and texting and all that. We've talked about becoming this solution-based ministry. Okay, let's get to this last one here. And this is the idea of creating a fertile landing ground. And this is when you keep guesses because they have landed in the right stuff. They have landed, Jesus gave that parable, okay, about the soils. And it had to do with the word of God and all that. But it talked about this lush soil. It talked about the hard ground, and the wind blew and it was scorched and the birds came and got it. We want our church to be that rich, lush soil, okay? Like the soil here in this photo. I found this photo. I thought it was pretty cool. It's like very lush looking area. It looks like about anything could grow in there compared to parched soil or just sand where there's hardly, anything can grow. There's not a lot of stuff growing in those areas. And we need to be that fertile landing ground. So how do we do that? How do we become the fertile soil? Okay, I'll go through a couple things here, and then we'll take some questions and wrap some things up. First of all, that soil needs to be free from tension. Okay, if this were a soil illustration, it'd be not too alkali and not too much acid, not too much this or that, just good, fresh soil. And our churches need to be tension free. One of the things we teach in our upcoming coaching course, I'll tell you just about in a few seconds here, our coaching class is how to have unity in your church. And if you have unity and you have everybody on the same page and you're like, we want to reach new people, we want to bring guests in, then the fussing and the fighting and some of those things needs to not, it just won't be there. It needs to go away. You need to take care of it. The number one thing that chases people away from a church to come into a church is if they walk into a fight. They walk into a family fight. Nobody wants to walk into a church that's having a business meeting where there's a bunch of, tension and all that kind of stuff. I remember I was out knocking doors once, and we were visiting, inviting kids to Vacation Bible School, walking up a little set of stairs, a little set of project buildings down in Alamosa, Colorado. And I remember walking up there, and I could hear people inside the screen door screaming and yelling at each other, and it was like, I think I'll go to the next door. And I did. If I was the pastor of the church, maybe I'd have walked up there and tried to solve it all right there. Okay. But people aren't coming to solve your church's problems. They're just going to walk away. They're going to go somewhere else. So we need to make sure the soil is rich and in good shape and healthy. And again, we teach some of this in our Back to Church crash course that we have, our coaching thing. The second thing here is that your church has what we call the linger factor. The linger factor. The linger factor, and I think a lady in our church kind of came up with this. I don't know, maybe she heard it somewhere. It's the idea that people don't want to leave. They want to hang around. In fact, I talked to our pastor just yesterday on the phone. He said people hung around till like an hour after the service, just talking and yakking and fellowship. And it's like, oh, that is so cool. And the linger factor is something that is managed. It's not just, you don't just get lucky and everybody hung around. There are several things to it. I'll give you a couple of things. Number one, at our church, our staff, myself, when I was a pastor, myself even now is kind of an assistant pastor, staff evangelist, they call me, our deacons, and some of our main staff people. Nobody disappears right after lunch or right after church and goes whoosh over to the restaurant to get something to eat. We don't do that. We hang around and talk because young families don't have that tradition of going out to eat. In fact, if you're a young mom and you got 2 or 3 little kids and there's no dad around, or even if there is a dad, do you want to take your kids to a public restaurant and eat? Are you kidding? Okay, you want to go home and give them a peanut butter jelly sandwich and put them to bed, for their naps. Yeah, you don't want to take them to a public place. So we hang around at church. Our staff stays around to create this. And I can tell you, this is one of the best secrets that we have done, is that nobody leaves. We talk. We don't, as a pastor, don't stand by the door. that ushers people out the door. Stand in the middle of the auditorium, wherever, where people can come and talk to you. Have someone else at the door. We talk about this in our greeting layout, and they can be de-greeting. They can be saying thank you for coming and all that. But as the pastor, you stand by the door. It's sort of like people haven't checked out until they go past you. And once they go past you, they're out the door. And the linger factor is no longer, okay? It's gone, okay, because they left. So you need to make sure you create that. You hang around. Another thing with the linger factor that we have found, we keep people around for cup of coffee, keep them around for some refreshments. We have some bottled water. We have some coffee. Nice coffee. We have some coffee and donuts and stuff, and people tend to eat that when they come in. But we also have some nice snacks afterwards that people can munch on and stick around. And some of these are healthier things for the children. So we have, carrot sticks and, celery sticks and some of that. We have the yogurt tubes, the little yogurt tubes that they squeeze. We have those little applesauce things that they unscrew and squeeze the applesauce in. We have cheese sticks and some of that. And so if a parent is talking and hanging around after church, they will linger longer if their kid is not starving. And so they walk up to the table, give their kid an applesauce, and they can talk for another 10 minutes to the pastor. So you got to think this stuff through. And this is the idea of this is, and people, they linger the fertile soil, and they go like, something is different about this church. I mean, most churches, when you're done, you walk right out out of the building. Okay. And I've been to some mainline denomination churches, been to them for, in my own life earlier, when I was, raised in a mainline church. Church is over. We were all gone. I mean, that was a thing that you did. We want to keep people around. So it's the idea of having that. We play some music on the speakers. It kind of keeps it sort of people talking and some of that. There's all sorts of different things that you can do. We even have things that you can sign up for after church, and people there are just do everything they can. So after our church service is over, we have people hanging around for an hour all the time. So the linger factor is a super, super important thing for you to create for that fertile soil. The next one here that I have is and it says this, it says easy for them, hard for us. And this is the idea, okay, that everything that we are talking about here, linger factor, removing tension, all the different things, we are willing to work hard to make that happen. Most churches are doing things the easy way. Okay. They print their bulletins the easy way. They invite people to church the easy way. Just do it all advertising or whatever, or the newspaper. Don't do one-on-one. They don't go visit people. There's so many areas where I could talk about this. But when people come to your church, okay, and they see that you have set out a beautiful spread of food there, and like someone was thinking about me ahead of time. They see that you have decorated. Wow, someone decorated here. This is pretty cool. Okay. They see that you have things prepared ahead of time for them, handouts. And when you go home, we have this handout for you. When you put your number there, I'll text you this thing. And that takes a lot of work. I can guarantee you, I have this rule that I try to do is if I say I'm going to send you something, I try to get it to them by 2:00 in the afternoon. Now, if you're doing the math here, it's like the church service ends at noon approximately. We hang out for an hour after church, yakking with people. Now at 1:00 until 2:00, I got like only 1 hour to make some of this stuff happen. Well, you can recruit some secretary type people to help with you, or you can do a lot of it yourself, but it is hard. What I'm saying is it is hard work to make all this stuff happen. And I want you to understand that to reach second-time visitors, to bring them back, it's going to take your passion and your guts, but it's also going to take a lot of sweat and hard work to make these things happen, but it is well worth it. And creating that fertile soil is a lot of work. Now, we have a little saying here that we use with all of our staff, and this is the idea that we are here to create an amazing local church experience. Okay, Johnny Appleseed said that too. Anyway, creating that amazing local church experience is what we do. So our janitor people, create an amazing local church experience. It's very clean. Our refreshment people, wonderful spread, nice and clean. The music people, the AV people, the people that are teaching, the people that are setting up bulletin boards, working with the children, they want it just to be an absolute and amazing time for parents and kids when they come to church. So when they walk out the door, they go, wow, that was amazing. Okay. This is all a lot of hard work to make all this stuff happen. Okay. If you got any questions, you can write them down. Let me give you this last little summary and tell you about our little Black Friday thing we got going here. If you want to establish success, okay, here it is. Think systems. Okay. Think solutions and think environment. Those are the biggies. Okay. If you're wanting to think those things through. So let me, summarize this. I was laying awake last night thinking about this, and here's sort of the last little thing I would share with you. It is the idea that if people are going to come back, when they come to your church and they see purpose, okay, they see intentionality, they see that people have done things, deliberately. They see things that there has been premeditation here. There's been a lot of forethought that has gone into this. And when they see that, that is probably one of the most intriguing thing. And it comes with whether it's the envelopes or the decoration or the cheese sticks or whatever, that your purpose is visible. Your purpose it's kind of like you can smell it. You can smell that this church is hungry for people. It's like purpose is like oozing out all over the place. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing when people walk into that environment, because what they normally see when they walk into a church that's visible is routine or ritual, or just habit. Okay. And believe me, I like some routines. I got some rituals, and habits are good. But when people only see that and they do not see that the intentionality just oozing all over the place, and that everything has been thought about ahead of time, that they're not coming back. Okay. That's kind of the bottom line. All right. Hey, this is Mike back in studio. I hope that was a helpful workshop for you. This webinar format is really a fun way to teach, and I enjoy it, but I also enjoy hearing the feedback. So if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts and you want to send those in to me at info@reachkeep.com, I'd appreciate that a bunch. We are here really to help you to be successful in your local church. That's really what it boils down to in really every way. On our wall here, we have a big plaque that says "Creating Flourishing Churches," and that is really the goal of reachkeep.com. One of the things that we do here is we spend time coaching, or it's sort of consulting, but it's really kind of coaching and helping pastors be the best that they can be in every little area. There's so many times in our churches where there's so many things, and our drive and our ambition, pushes us, and we really want to do our best. We really push towards success, but there's sometimes we run into little dead ends, and for example, in getting visitors to return a second time. Perhaps it's with your ministry teams, with your teachers, and getting them all on the same page so they know what they're doing, or your outreach programs need to be more unified, or your volunteers are struggling and kind of doing their own thing and not really volunteering the way that you want them to volunteer. All of those things are really what we help pastors kind of figure out through our coaching programs. Now, this particular program that I have on the screen here is the Back to Church Crash Course, and it's sort of our opening way of spending time with you in a deeper, longer way, more than just a webinar. It is something that costs more money, but we found that many pastors just extremely benefit from having someone to talk to, someone to lay their plans out and bounce that against, someone to, actually be accountable to, and just like, hey, help me get this done by this next month. We spend a lot of time helping pastors in those areas. And the bottom line is we want to help you to be better as you influence your community. God called you to that town. God called you that little piece of the world, and you are there to make a difference. And we don't want to see anyone treading water. We want to see you taking full strokes and moving ahead and getting things done. So we are really here to help you do great things in your community. So if you are interested in this, you can go to this link, and I'll have it on the screen here. It's just reachkeep.com/crash, and that will get you to a page where it kind of explains a little bit more about how a coaching process works. A lot of pastors have never been through coaching. They've done a lot of, they've had mentors, they've had Bible college teachers, they've had, pastor friends, but to have someone that meets with them, on a regular basis and gives them, training and then checks up on the training, that's sort of what coaching is. It's like a quarterback coach. I mean, I'm sure that, Joe Montana and John Elway and Brady and all those, Roger Staubach, all those guys knew how to throw the ball. They could throw it really good, but they also probably had someone that said, hey, when you step back a little bit, turn your body a little bit this way or that way, and it's going to help you better. Someone to kind of observe and make comments and help them. And that's really what the coaching is about, to help you be a world-class, not a quarterback, but a world-class pastor of a church in your area, being absolutely the optimal you, being the very best that you can be, doing great things in your community. So basically, take a look at this page if you would. Read through some of the stuff, what we do, what we don't do. There's a little application at the bottom, and that sort of triggers a phone call. And so you fill out the application, and then we will get on the phone with you and talk and see if you fit in the scenario for coaching. Anyway, we are here for you. Thank you so much for joining us for this last workshop here on, helping guests to come back that second time. And we're here to help you with your church really at every level. So thanks again. God bless. And we will hopefully see you really soon. Like I say, fill out the application, and that triggers a phone call, and I'll be in touch with you. So God bless. We'll see you soon.